free consultation at midaymirisricky.com.
Welcome back to Finger Lakes Today. Now, this past Friday, my co-host Josh here ran a 5K, and I wanted to be proud of him. I did, until he told me that at the very last leg of the race, he was outrun by a 14-year-old and a 74-year-old. Congratulations, Josh. You let me down.
Yeah, it wasn't my best showing. So the race itself was for an awesome cause, obviously.
Yes.
So the Stars and Stripes Veterun 5K at Mendon Park raised money for Honor Flight Rochester, which, for those of you who don't know, it's not for profit. Honors vets for their sacrifices by flying them to see their memorials in Washington, D.C. Really cool, really awesome. And they need money now more than ever because of how crazy flights are. If anybody's tried to book a flight lately, they know exactly how complicated that is.
Absolutely.
And of course, the cost, it's becoming more costly by the day to get those trips, to make those trips happen, because they happen at no cost to the veterans. So anyway, let's talk about this race. I went into it actually with the mindset of hoping that I was going to PR my outdoor 5K time.
Ouch.
Did not come, actually I shouldn't say that. I came within basically like a minute of doing that. So I finished right around the 25-minute mark. 24-ish is my best time ever.
Okay.
But my expectation, given what training had been like leading up to it, was more in the 22 to 23-minute range. And as it turns out, folks are watching right now, part of the video, unfortunately, the only part of the video that I was able to get of the course itself, which, if you've ever been to Mendon Park, lots of paved surfaces, lots of walkways, lots of roads. But what they did this summer, which anybody who lives in a rural part of the Finger Lakes knows exactly what this is. They oil and basically gravel the roads instead of paving them with pure blacktop. So there was this very fine, loose, I don't want to call it gravel, but almost like stone dust on the surface. And it didn't rain while we were running. It didn't rain during the race, but it had rained, I'll say it rained just enough to dampen everything for like a minute and a half right before we started. And that loose surface, that loose stony kind of surface, became really, really, really slick. And unfortunately, I wasn't wearing the right shoes. I have a few different pairs that I kind of jockey between, depending on where I'm running or what the circumstances are. I chose the wrong one because I thought it was going to be a normal blacktop surface, no questions asked. It was not. And I'd just like to point out, in my own defense here, the 14-year-old who was about 40 yards ahead of me the entire race, she ran like a gazelle, so kudos to her. And the 72-year-old who wound up finishing ahead of me, also a very steady and clearly accomplished runner. If you're running a sub 25-minute, I think he finished with 24:50-ish. If you're 72 years old, if you're over 60 years old running that 5K time, that is thoroughly impressive. So no shame in that outcome. I am a little disappointed with the outcome overall for me personally, but that's more of a environment situation. I wasn't ready for it.
Well, of course you know that I was kidding, and I am in fact proud of you for running it, especially under those conditions. How did it feel when you crossed the finish line?
It felt awesome. I would say that this was the first time I ran a race at Mendon Ponds. I've got two more coming. I have 2 more 5Ks coming up in the next 30 or so days. So I'm excited to get that going. I actually prefer running when it starts to cool off like this.
Yeah.
Ran a couple races over the summer, and it's a little tougher to get where you want to be physically when you don't know if it's going to be 70 degrees and really comfortable or 90 degrees and humid.
When the weather's all over the place. When is your next, or do you have a next 5K for a good cause coming up?
The turkey trot in Webster.
Okay.
I try to do those. I try to do a turkey trot every couple of years. So that is definitely Thanksgiving morning. Get up, go out and run a 5K, and then it's a great excuse to just eat a pile of food the rest of the day.
It's a little overachievery. I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm not doing anything on Thanksgiving other than eating, but it's still for a great cause.
And speaking of great causes, obviously It's a Wonderful Run coming up in literally a month. Over It's a Wonderful Weekend here in Seneca Falls. That is by far, I think, my favorite 5K that I run all year, mainly because it's unique. It's at night. It's holiday themed. And I say at night. It's not at night. It's just as basically it's getting dark because of when it gets dark in early December. So you get it's like a 4:40 start, 4:40 in the afternoon start time, and by 5:30 when folks are mostly finishing or crossing the finish line, lots of lights and all that kind of stuff. It's very cool. Very cool.
I think the next race, I have every confidence in you, and I know Nate does too, and so does Paul, that you will beat your personal best time. Right, guys?
I don't know about that. But hey, that's going to do it for this edition of Finger Lakes today. Thanks so much for watching. Join Rebecca and I here tomorrow morning as we welcome Jennifer Keim from the Finger Lakes Welcome Center to the studio. Have a great day.